My name is Ndeveni Jonathan. I'm a resident of Nairobi County. I was born in Kitui County not so many years ago. I grew up in Kitui. I schooled in Kitui in my primary education and my secondary education. Then after that, I came to the city of Nairobi for my tertiary education. And that's where I've been since then. From the university until I started working and doing many things here and there. Academically, I studied business. I specialized in entrepreneurship. That was the undergraduate. And then after that, I enrolled for my postgraduate, where I did a Master of Business Administration in Strategic Management, and also taking another Master's in Public Administration. And then have been working as a consultant, enterprise consultant, a trainer, and a strategist, as well as I'm an entrepreneur. And also have been into the agribusiness industry for quite some time, about 5 years. So been working with the young people and the women, people in the communities to help them create jobs, decent jobs, and trying to fight the problem of unemployment within our people. One of the problems that we are facing in Africa is poverty, and there are also other problems that we face in the continent of Africa. When it comes to food or agriculture, we face a lot of food insecurity, whereby people are unable to grow food and store that food. And also the major problem that we have is the climate patterns that affect, because most of the people in Africa, or rather most of the farmers, the largest percentage of farmers in Africa, they rely on the rainfall for their farming or to produce food. And that has been a challenge because they are unable to produce enough food because of the climate issues that we are facing in the continent. And therefore, that now brings the major problem that is being in a position or inability of producing enough food for ourselves. So if you look at the continent of Africa, with the population we have, we import much of our things that we consume instead of us producing. As we have, in terms of the land mass, we have the largest land mass. We can be able to produce food for ourselves. But because of issues to do with the food insecurity, ineffective or insufficient farming methods, or lack of modernizing agribusiness, so we find ourselves in a situation where we are struggling with hunger. When you look at the agriculture industry, it has some subsectors. We refer to them as subsectors. We have the input sector, we have the production sector, and we have the output sector. So the input sector is where the process of food production starts. So if you look at our continent, we mostly rely from other continents in terms of the inputs. We get inputs from other continents. We are unable to produce our own seeds, to produce our own insecticides, our pesticides, fungicides. And that brings a huge challenge or a problem, because these inputs, they come from outside. Most people are unable to afford. So you find someone is unable to produce food because they cannot afford fertilizers or insecticides, or quality seeds. So they end up repeating those seeds. For example, they had farmed in a previous season. They continue recycling them. So that brings the yields goes down. So you find someone who has 1 acre, you've planted your maize and you harvest almost nothing. Then also there are other challenges that have come across in the agricultural industry, and one of them is training. You know, things keeps changing. The weather keeps changing. So you find most people do not have information, the right information on how they can be able to modernize agriculture or rather practice what we refer to as smart farming, to be able now to increase yields, to be able to produce enough food for themselves and have a surplus that maybe they will be able to sell. Another challenge, biggest challenge, is market access. We have people who produce, but you don't know where you are going to sell. So you have a product, and we have seen it, given an example with our country, Kenya. People produce maize, large quantities, but you hear the national cereal board is full, so they do not have any other market to sell. So what happens is these foods starts rotting. So that brings, at the end of the day, we get back to food insecurity. And then we also have a challenge with financial access. For people who want now to produce food for commercial purpose, because someone would want to, not everyone will be a farmer, but we all need to consume farm produce. So accessing financing has been a problem for people who want to get into commercial farming. And then the biggest challenge, I think, is the perception by most people about agriculture. It has been done traditionally. There are people who think that you know, agriculture is for those who are not learned, those who did not get opportunity to continue with the education. Those are the people who, you know, should be at the farms. So that way of keeping agriculture at a traditional level has been a problem, which I'm happy because now governments, you know, are coming out slowly by slowly to try to address some of these issues in the sector, because now it is actually the sector that contributes the largest percentage in terms of gross domestic production in our countries, in the whole continent of Africa. The next generation of billionaires in Africa will be agriculturists or someone who is an agripreneur. But my vision is not growing the people will be the richest people in the sector, but growing a generation that will be able to provide food, produce food for the population. Because right now, the population of Africa is about 1.3 billion. And the annual growth rate is about 2.5%. So by 2050, we'll have close to 2.5 billion people in Africa. So the population is increasing, but not proportionally to the land. We do have land, but few years to come, you'll find the land is very small and the population is very high, and these people want to eat. No, you can't live without food. So my vision is to be able to grow farmers by providing modern ways of farming that will ensure that the farmer does not rely on the climate or does not rely on the rainfall, where the farmer does not have the stress of the space. Say, I don't have a land anymore to farm. You know, that the farmer will not say it's expensive, you know, to farm. So I'm seeing a continent whereby few years or maybe 10, 20 years to come, we'll be in a position where at least we are producing 70% of our inputs. Those are things like seeds, fertilizers, or the nutrients that are needed by the plant, you know, even also machineries to enable our farmers to be able to produce food for the population, and as well as create jobs now for the people who will be directly involved and others who are indirectly involved.